I'm back. It's been a while, and I'm ready to give it another try. And so, with that said, welcome to the Sip and Chat podcast. My name is Tracy Lee, your host, and on today's episode, we are going to talk about our voices have value. And I think that part of my reservation with having a podcast and doing a podcast, I had to do a lot of reflection on like how I wanted to show up and if I even really wanted to do it. And the answer was yes, a resounding yes. But it was a few things. And so you probably, if you are, followed me in any way, whether it was my business or even in like my personal life, this is not the first time that I've done a podcast. I have been wanting to do a podcast for a long time, way before it became popular, way before video podcasting became a thing. I really liked the podcast idea. And as I was like starting my business, I was going to journey, what that was going to be like as far as doing a podcast and all of that as I, started my business and all the things. And life happened, nerves happened, and it didn't happen. And then right around COVID, myself and a friend of mine decided to do a podcast, and we did a season, and things happened, and we weren't able to move forward with that podcast. But the one thing that I realized, the thing that was holding me up for just like doing the podcast on my own, especially since I had been wanting to do it for a long time, I was just nervous to just get started by myself, right? And so the first thing that stopped me from doing my podcast a few years ago was, I didn't feel like that my voice had value. And the one thing that, sometimes you'll hear people, they're telling their stories and you feel like, wow, what a testimony, and how, thank you for sharing that, and, all the things. And then when you start thinking about maybe what you've been through or the life that you have, you kind of don't feel like, well, that's not really tragic enough to, it's not really tragic enough to, share my story or my point of view. And I went through that as well, just to think, well, who wants to hear from me? I don't have anything interesting. I don't have anything, and sometimes you think the only thing that's going to do well is like salacious type of podcasting or, just, I don't know, clickbait kind of. That's what comes to mind. Not that there are people doing that. And if they are, whatever, but you just kind of don't know what it is that you want to talk about. And so, or you think that what you want to talk about doesn't have value. And I realized that that's not true. Like, I have a lot of things that I want to talk about, even in my personal life, that I can either, share and just start a conversation, or I can share and maybe help somebody or prevent somebody from maybe going down a very similar path as me. So I say that to say, I realized that I have value in the things that I want to share and the things that I want to talk about. The second thing, I have notes. The second thing that I realized when I was asking, like, is this something that I really want to do? Like, how am I going to do it? What's it going to look like? And again, if you've followed me in any capacity, last year I launched the Sip and Chat podcast, and still holding on to a lot of these things that I'm revealing to you now. And the second thing that showed up for me was a fear of being seen. And it's funny, I didn't really know how to describe it, but there's been some talk of that on TikTok, and so that like has been coming up on my feed. And the young lady was just saying how if you have a fear of being seen, and then you fill in the blank. And so I realized that that was definitely a hindrance for me. And so I understood now why I wanted to have a co-host doing the podcast, because there's a comfortability with having someone to talk to. There's an accountability by showing up for not just you but for somebody else. And you know you really just don't want to be out there by yourself. You really want someone with you to do it with you. And if you can't have that, you really start to doubt if it's something that you can even do, or if it's something that you even want to do. And so I remember when we stopped doing the podcast and I considered doing it anyway on my own. The first thing I thought was like, well, what guests can I have? And, who can I bring on to interview? Again, that is something that I want to have as part of my podcast, but why did I go right to bringing on somebody else? But again, it goes back to the fear of being seen. You don't want to do it on your own, and you just kind of want to have a confidence that comes with partnership, right? You want to have somebody there with you for the ups and downs and all the things, decision making, because that's definitely something that, we don't talk about when you talk about running a business on your own. Like, you really do want people who, a lot of times when you go into business in general, you want to do it with other people. You don't want to do it by yourself, because you really do want to maybe collaborate or just come up with different ideas together, because you don't have to foot the brunt of everything that's happening. And when you realize that that's not going to happen and you have to be the solopreneur, it's daunting with that realization. But yeah, so fear of being seen was definitely something that was part of my reservation of doing my podcast on my own. And then the last thing is fear of trusting God. And for a long time, I haven't really, I'm Christian. I have no problem with admitting that. I believe in God with my whole heart and all the things. And I really try to, I try not to talk about certain things on, in business and different things like that. But when it comes to God, I'm not going to downplay any of that. But back to the hindrance that I was having, and this is twofold in business as well as in like this podcast situation. I didn't trust that he was leading me here, that he was going to have my back here. And so it kind of goes back to like the partnership thing. When I realized that I didn't need anybody else, because God already told me that it was for me and to do it, and, all the things. And that's a whole nother conversation, like making sure that you're hearing the right things, because, you can definitely say to yourself, oh yeah, God told me to do, and I don't know how God speaks to you. He doesn't speak to me and he don't come down and say, hey Trey, this is, but yeah, so this is what I have now. And what I realize now is that really the conversations, the community, all of the things is really led by him. And I just have to show up to do the work that he's given me to do. And then everything else is, he shows up in such a way. And once I realized that, it really helped me to take my ego out of it, take my expectations out of what a podcast can do for me or be for me, and really go back to having conversations. And, that not only that I need now, but I needed 20, 30 years ago, and that maybe there's someone now who needs to open up and begin having those conversations. And, you just never know the blessing that you'll be to somebody else just by sharing what you have to share. And so it's just, I really had to be okay with waiting and making sure that the things that I was ready. Let's just say that I had to really get to a point to know that I was ready, because you can have a calling on your life and you have to take the steps to get to that calling, to answer that call. And sometimes we are preemptive to the call and you're not ready. You haven't done the work. You don't realize the things. And don't get me wrong, there are some times where you have to just step out and everything's going to fall into place. But even that, you have to be ready to step out. And I was not ready. And that's again, so funny. Like a lot of this is like linked to starting and running my business, and as well as, starting and doing the podcast. And so, I had to do some personal work, and that's really what it really comes down to is working on myself, really understanding the call that I'm answering and making sure that how I answer it is something that I can do consistently. And that took time because there is a part of me that still straddles the line of what I want to do and what I need to do. There is a part of me that straddles the line for, should I share this or not share that, so it's just, you just have to toe the line and really get down and dirty and be honest with yourself about how it is you want to show up. And the one thing that this season that I'm in, this current season that I am in now, I can honestly say that I am going after my heart's desire. And it's like even the secrets of my heart's desire. It's like, it's things that I've wanted to do, that I wanted to try for however long. And I'm in the season that I want to go ahead and give it my best, give it a try and see what happens. And, realizing that my voice matters, that no matter how big or small, it's not a one up. I don't have to one up somebody else's life or testimony in order for my perspective to be received or appreciated. Being seen is a gift. I'm just reading off my notes. Being seen is a gift. And it really is a gift because there was a time prior to YouTube and social media and all the things that you had to be found. Somebody had to come and discover you, or you had to, do a lot of other things in order to get into the right rooms or be seen in the right mixes. And that's not where we are anymore. I mean, we literally can turn our phones on and, make music, make videos, become whatever you desire to be. And so as much as like reservation as I have had about being in front of the camera or being on camera or even sharing parts of my life, it's a gift that we can do it. And like literally you can be your own producer, director, and everything for whatever life that you want for yourself. And of course you can edit. So you don't have to share every part of your life if you don't want to, but we don't have to wait to be seen. We can literally start now. And those who hear us will hear us and see us. And then you get to grow and do all the things that you have been wanting to do for however long. Right. And so, the other thing that I realized too is that I get to define what success looks like for me. And like right now, recording this video, and then I'm going to edit the video tomorrow and then post it on Saturday. I'm just that alone. If I do those three things by Saturday, I will be a success because that's all it takes. I just told you what success was for me. I just defined it for you. And so the one thing that I'm realizing more and more is that most of us don't want the same thing. So sometimes we're looking to compete with other people, or we're in competition with people that, for one, are not in competition with us. But whatever, you may be in competition with other people or outside people, and they don't even want the same things. So we're defining success. Like we all have like maybe the same definition for success, but you get to define what success is for you. And I remember my best friend told me this years ago when I was starting my business. And she was just like, if you just help one person, you're successful. So if I'm able to help hundreds of people, thousands of people, I've already won because I just needed to help one person. And if I show up like I'm doing today, that one person is me. And if I'm serving like I'm supposed to be doing, listen, the win is like 1,000-fold, right? So, we get to define what success is, and we get to create it ourselves with the way that, you know, the world is today as far as like social media and things of that nature. And so, you know, with taking time to really take care of myself and really hone into the things that I want in this part of my life and going into the second half of my life, I want to go into that more fearless. Because some would say that I'm fearless, but in some instances I am not, because there are things that have never done knowing that I wanted to do it. But the life that I want for myself now requires me to come out of my comfort zone, be fearless in ways that I've never explored, and also understand that if it starts with me. So I can't make excuses or blame it on anybody else. You know, the changes that are required start with me, and it starts today. So yeah, this is me getting back into the podcast game. So many things are happening in here that are then being transferred in here, and then they will become, you know, seen by all. But it's starting, and I'm excited, and I'm going to push through even when I don't want to, because that's what's going to make the difference. So thank you for joining. I will see you on the next episode, and let me know, like, you know what, I already know the answer, so you don't have to you don't have to tell me. But if you do want to tell me, let me know what's stopping you right now. Is there something that's stopping you from doing your heart's desire? And if you're bold enough, would you tell me what your heart's desire is? I would love to know. So anyway, guys, have a great day, and I will see you on the next video.